What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source for combat sports. I'm your host, Al the Postmaster Tomorrow, and today I'm really excited to bring you yet another video, as always. But as you can tell by the topic and the title of the video, it's going to be a bit of a different video than usual. And I wanted to put this out there because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I've actually been an ambassador for mental health through my job over the last month. And I've shared this story with a couple schools I've talked to in the local area, and people have asked me if I put it up on my YouTube channel yet or if I've made this public. And I haven't really told a whole lot of people outside of the select group of kids, maybe a group of 10 or 15 kids. Now, being encouraged to do so, I wanted to put this, and like I said, as you can tell by the title of the video, I'm saying a big thank you to someone who, just in a few moments of my life, my young life, 25 years, changed it for the better. Over the last 2.5, almost 3 years. He's really changed it for the better. And I'm thinking Iron Michael Chandler. He is a UFC lightweight contender. He's fought for the belt. He's in nothing but fight of the night performances. And he is one hell of an athlete, and I love watching him. I've loved watching him for a very long time. I really knew of him, funny enough, in Bully Beatdown when they aired an episode with Eddie Alvarez, who I'm also a big fan of. Someone commented below of Eddie Alvarez's episode, I want to say, saying that he was fighting that night, and he was fighting Iron Michael Chandler. And I think that was about the time I was getting into MMA. That was 2011 or 12, I think, was their second fight, was the first one I saw, and it was a great fight, and I wound up going back and watching the first one, and I started watching Michael Chandler because it was on MTV2 at the time, and it was free to watch, and that's really the first thing I watched was Bellator getting into MMA, besides some UFC fights who were there. I mean, I watched Brock Lesnar and stuff. Michael Chandler was someone I followed for a while, and I always made it my business to watch all of his Bellator fights. I was a huge fan of him, and when he got signed to the UFC, it was a big deal. I always loved his positive message. He always said, you know, no matter what happens, just keep getting up, lace up your boots, you know, dust off your pants and keep going, basically. And I always love that positive message. And I love people that have positive messages like that, because I'm able to go, especially if I'm doing the ambassador program I've been doing through my job lately, and tell people that, because now I'm starting to do it primarily because of Michael Chandler. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, what is the story behind it? If I get emotional every now and again, I'm sorry. And I know people are going to think that's crazy, like you never even met the guy, and I hope I do one day. Honestly, I didn't want to make this public. It sounds silly until I got to the UFC one day to shake his hand and say thank you. It was in the midst of COVID, where it was kind of like that hopeless stage of things aren't really getting that much better. At the time, I was working at a nonprofit, and I was hired. I was supposed to run an athletic department, but because the athletic department was frozen because of COVID, I was basically made a maintenance guy, and I wasn't making a lot of money. I just got out of college, and I was thinking, I wasted 4 years of my life for what? And I was at this place for 1.5 years, and it was still to this day the worst job I've ever had, and it just was not good for my mental health. I went through a lot of mental health crises. I was not approaching my mental health the way I should have. I was recently diagnosed with bipolar disorder at that time, and I was taking new medications that were really messing with my brain and messing with my whole anatomy. My life, for me, I just thought this was it. I was constantly told at my job I was going to be at the bottom of my totem pole every day. I was going to show up, do what I'm supposed to do. I was going to do that till the day I died. I hadn't fought in 2 or 3 years, not just because of COVID, but because I graduated college. I had one fight right out of college, and I figured that's it, you know, no more fighting. I'm never going to be anything at it. I was never told I was going to be anything at this, except for my boxing coach said I could do so much more. I was out of shape. I hadn't been in good shape since I was maybe 17, 18 years old. I sucked at wrestling. I was not great at MMA. You know, I just kind of did it for fun in college, and I always thought I just wasn't going to be athletic or talented enough to fight. I left that job in 2000, that would have been January of 2021. I had money saved enough. I lived with my grandmother for a little bit. I moved out of the apartment I was in. I lived with my grandmother for about 2 months, and I told myself I'm going to use those 2 months. I had the money saved to just get my life together and be happy again for the first time in a while. Around February of 2021, that I was turned on to this thing called Cameo, and Cameo is when you can reach out to different celebrities, basically, and I was looking up a bunch of fighters. I saw my favorite, Bas Rutten, was on there. I saw a couple other fighters on there, and then I saw Michael Chandler was on there. You had options of what you could send to guys over Cameo, and I was in such a dark place. I was at the heaviest I had been. I was 275 pounds, and I was I was fat, I was overweight, I hadn't trained, I wasn't coaching really that much at the time. I just didn't have anything that made me happy. And I always saw Michael Chandler's post about being positive. So I basically reached out to him and I said, I'm a huge fan of you, but how do you stay so positive all the time? I think it was $50 to $100 for the cameo. And you know, I had money saved from my job. I was smart in that aspect, but it still wasn't like I could just afford to blow $50 to $100 just on a video message from someone. I sent the message to Michael Chandler. I paid the money. A day later, I get a refund from Cameo, and it said your request has been denied by the actor or something on there, or by the artist. But it read a message from Michael Chandler saying, message me on Instagram with your name and everything. You shouldn't pay for this advice. I did exactly what the message said. I messaged Michael Chandler on Instagram, and lo and behold, I say, hey, Mr. Chandler, it's me from, that's just a respect thing. I called him Mr. Chandler. I said, Mr. Chandler, it's me. First thing he says is, there he is. Then he sends me a video.
My man Al, what's up, brother? Also, I got your message about losing your job, losing the position. Right now is tough for a lot of people, especially in the gym space. You know, I just was at the YMCA. Put in a little bit of work in the treadmill. It's like a desolate place. There's not a lot of people there. There's spray bottles and dividers between the treadmills. It's just a crazy time for athletes, for athletics, for gyms. But stay the course. We know everything changes with time and circumstance. We know that this will all end, that our best days and blessed days are ahead of us. Just know that right now is a good time to build your mind, continue to build your body, focus on what you can control. You won't be able to control mandates. You won't be able to control viruses. You won't be able to control people around you, but you can control you. How does Al become the best Al that he can possibly be? That should be your focus every single day. Bulletproof the mind. Then and only then can you be the best version of yourself, man. I'll see you at the top.
Right now, focus on what you can control and bulletproof the mind. And he told me to buy a couple books and read those books, and to read his 14 days to the top thing, which was one day to do an action and the second day to reflect off your action that he had in the book. And if you can find that pamphlet, it's a small little booklet of what to do. And I did that for 14 days, 2 weeks. I did that all. And at the end of those 14 days, I had the courage to go back to my old MMA gym, talk with my coach and say, can I just get in shape again and go back to doing what I love? And I got a job immediately after. I found a job that was with a nonprofit, worked with people with disabilities, which was a really fulfilling job. I worked with kids and stuff in foster care too, and that was a fulfilling job. I told Michael Chandler that, and much to my surprise, he reached out and said, keep going, you're doing good. Just little messages here or there that he'd send, and those little messages would just keeping me up. I told him I followed this day, I followed that day, I'm doing everything you're telling me to do, and he would actually respond to me and say you're doing good, keep going, I'll see you at the top. I know that's his catchphrase, it's what he says to everybody, but I believed it. I wanted to see him at the top, and I still do. Fast forward a couple months, I got to September of 2021, and I had my first fight back at heavyweight, and I was so scared. I went in and I dominated. I won all 3 rounds. I was winning until I TKO'd him in the third round, and Big Dan Mergliata was the ref too. I fought for a title against a guy I lost to, and I was training hard because I saw Michael Chandler training hard, and I wanted to train hard, and I put more effort into that fight than I ever had before till that day. Still kind of looked like a roly-poly, but I knew I was in great shape for that fight, and I lost again to the same guy. I got taken down, smothered, beat up by a guy that looked like Michael Chandler, only bigger, a good friend of mine. I remember I was so down on myself for 1 or 2 days, and I reached back out to Michael Chandler because I didn't know what else to do, and I said, man, I thought I was so frustrated because I thought finally all the hard work, maybe I'm realizing I'm talented. And then he told me the same cliche quote that you can call it, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And then we had another fight offer, and it was for the same title because the guy was a light heavyweight. Usually he went up, beat me, went back down to light heavyweight. Because we fought for the title. It went September I fought, November I fought, and then February, early February. So a year after Michael Chandler messaged me, I'm fighting for this. And I won. I dominated 2 rounds until I got TKO stoppage. Dan Mergliata was the ref again, and I send Michael Chandler a picture of my new amateur belt with the wraps off, and I say, Mr. Chandler, I did it. And he says, that's awesome, good for you. Keep going now, you gotta defend it. I said, okay, and so I fight in March that year. I defend it against another guy that was really good at the time. I trained even harder for that. And then I defended it again, only this time it was in front of Mike Tyson. And it was the coolest experience of my life. I got to meet one of my another Iron Michael, Iron Mike Tyson. I got to meet and fight in front of him. I beat my guy in the second round, or the first round, right in front of Mike Tyson in the Albany Convention Center, where Mike Tyson made his debut and everything, and he fought as an amateur. I thought that was so cool. I fought at the beginning of September again, a year after I made my return back to fighting in amateurs. And I got another TKO stoppage, and I messaged Michael Chandler and I said, I'm gonna go pro. I'm going to do this because you told me I can do this, and I'll see you on the top. And he said, there you go, I'll see you at the top. In January of this year, I made my pro debut. As injured as I was, I had a really bad back injury. I hurt my knee the week before. I still won third round TKO against a guy I fought in the amateurs that I beat in the first round, and I still won. And I sent Michael Chandler a message saying I did it again. I'm a pro, and if I win a few more, I might be able to see you, is all I told him. And I said, I can't wait to shake your hand and tell you that I'm doing it because you said I could do it. And he sent me back again. It's only going to get better from here. Keep working hard. As much as a small token of a minute of someone telling you that you got to bulletproof your mind and you got to focus on what you can control. That man didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go out of his way to do that. He didn't have to go out of his way to do any of that. I was not a big fan of Dustin Poirier for a while when he called Michael Chandler fake. I think he's anything but. Now everyone will be as lucky as I was to get their idol to reach out to them and say, keep your head up. But Mr. Chandler, if you ever see this, I just wanted to say thanks. Because even if I never make it to the UFC, I'm going to try my best to shake your hand there. I want you to know that I'm doing it. And thanks everyone for watching. Sorry for waterworks. I'm not trying to be over dramatic. I just think where my life was almost 3 years ago now, and how I didn't even want to be here. And now I'm the happiest I've ever been. I got a house. I just got a new house. I have a fiance who supports me day in and day out. I'm a professional fighter and I coach. My family's doing good. Everyone's doing good. My dad's in remission from cancer. My sister just graduated college, and I'm looking at all the things that I can be grateful for now. I didn't have that ability, and I truly do thank that one guy that didn't have to do what he did for doing that. So like I said, Mr. Chandler, if you ever see this, thank you.